founder and CEO of Nextstars. We are a founder-driven advisory firm specialized in helping international entrepreneurs launch businesses in Canada. Today, I want to talk about a very important topic, and that's how to prepare for an IRCC update as a startup visa applicant. If you are already an applicant to a startup visa, you're probably familiar with this topic. And if you're not, I strongly advise you to research about these updates and what do they entail. And there are questions that relate to your finances and all that you can discuss with your immigration lawyer consultant. And there are questions relate to your business. And that's kind of what we want to talk about today. So, important caveat, this is not meant to be a cheat sheet. This is merely a guide for genuine startups, and our goal is to help you prepare effectively by ensuring that you have, first and foremost, a viable business, and also you have real traction and that you can demonstrate to when you get an update from an IRCC officer. So, a little bit about the types of questions that you get on your updates. Some are forward-looking. These questions might be like, what are you planning to do when you arrive in Canada? I've had startups that, for example, they're in retail industry or fintech or health tech. They're asking about regulations. Those are, generally speaking, easier questions to answer. But there are some questions that are related to your progress or traction, or what have you done while you've been waiting for a decision. So it can be like, can you send us an updated business plan or give us a progress report? And we've seen, just like 2 weeks ago, a client of ours got an update and they just give 7 days to respond. So you cannot physically do enough in that 7 days to satisfy an IRCC officer that your intention is to create a solid, viable, successful business in Canada. So it's important to be prepared and to think ahead of time for these updates. So I want every one of you to get together with your team, create a Google Drive, SharePoint, Dropbox, whatever that works for you, and at least put 5 folders in that drive. Number 1, team meetings. First of all, as a real startup, you are meeting with your peers, maybe weekly, monthly, and I want you to document every meeting. Have a meeting agenda, date, have a screenshot of your internal meetings and the decisions that you're making for your business. We want to show that you have done that properly and you've followed proper business and corporate policies. The second folder should be for your product development activities. The third is for your operation and anything that relates to your operations. The fourth folder is for business development, marketing, anything that really is going to bring revenue at the door. And the fifth folder is going to be around fundraising. So remember, everything that we are suggesting to you, like these 4 pillars, this is exactly what a real startup, like a normal startup that's not a startup visa startup would do. And it's very important to note that there's no difference between a startup and a startup visa startup. The only difference is that you would have to have meticulous documentation and collect these documents in a way that you can communicate to IRCC. And fortunately or unfortunately, the way to communicate the progress today is through PDF files. So you always need to keep that in mind when you're collecting your documentation or you're keeping track of things. It is very important to note that documentation is everything. And you want to create these documentation in a way that preferably it's time stamped, because you want to show a story, not a single like dot, a trend of success, a trend of progress that one can imagine and extrapolate a successful business that is going to make real impact on the Canadian economy when they're looking at your progress report. In future videos, I'll explain what kinds of documents you can generate and create for each of those subfolders for your product development, operations, fundraising, and business development. And another important factor you need to think about is if you have a work permit, if you're in Canada, or if you're just waiting in your home country, the type of these documentation, the length that you can go is probably a little bit limited if you do not have a work permit. So that's something very important to take note of. And I want you guys to be very positive. You know, the wait times have been a little bit longer than we would have liked, but it doesn't mean that we should give up. We should continue. We should make progress. We should stay positive about our startup and put a startup first. Because remember, this is what I tell to all of my clients. It's a startup visa. So the visa is basically a byproduct of having a solid, successful, good quality, viable startup. So good luck and stay tuned. And again, remember, consistent documentation is key. Thank you.